Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and a windy and potentially rainy day here in the UK. Winter is fully upon us. Now, today I'm talking about a club that I picked up online for £50 off eBay, so around $60 mark. And it is the Cobra F7. So there it is, a little bit used, I'd say, but still works absolutely fine. Now, the reason I thought I'd pick this up and what caught my eye is the fact that Cobra from F9 have really been producing some, well, let's be honest, very amazing drivers. You had the Rad Speed, and obviously now you've got the LTDX for this year, 2022, which is one of the main drivers out there for distance, forgiveness, and looks and everything like that. It's won loads of awards. So I was wondering now, is it worth looking at the drivers before the F9? So the F8, obviously the F7, and maybe the original LTD, with the idea of, these are under £100. Is it worth picking them up and putting them in a bag? If you're looking for that budget driver, if you want something that's more forgiving, potentially more longer, but you don't want to go and, spend over £100 or break the bank. So that's what made me pick it up. Now, a little bit about the King F7. There was three models. So there was the F7 Plus, which is the more lower spinner. You had the F King here, which is their sort of, across their average across the range sort of thing. Well, not average, but you know what I mean. Their standard driver. And then you had the F7 Ti, which only had one movable weight at the back and was just basically titanium. With here, well, the F7 and the F7 Plus, three movable weights, and also carbon fiber top here, which is Techstream carbon. So if we have a look at the club a little bit closer, so here it is in all its glory. Now, as you can see, you've got the three weights at the bottom, as I just mentioned. You've got 12 grams at the back there, and then two 2-gram weights. So one in the draw at the moment, and one in low spin. Sole wise, look wise, looks very nice, to be honest. I quite like it. There's the face. And now if we look at the top of the club, there you go. And you can see the carbon fibre on the top there, and that sort of pattern, sort of a bit like a chessboard. Now, for me, you had three options. You had the grey, black and blue. Just happened to pick that I picked up the blue, but to be honest, I really like it. Now, before I talk through about moving the weights, etc., let's just have a look at this against my PXG. So there's the different type of shapes there. You can see the Cobra's a little bit longer, which is for more forgiveness, more weight to the back, higher ball flight, etc. While my PXG was a bit more of the Gen 5 model, which is more low spin, as you can see, is a bit more compact. So, as you just saw there with the three weights and the difference between the PXG, now the PXG Gen 5 actually does have three weights as well. So, this technology has been around for a couple of years now, because, 2022 and this is 2017. Now, as mentioned, you had the three weights I've already mentioned and shown you. Now, if you move that 12 gram, so at the moment it's at the back, sorry, so that gives more forgiveness, with the idea that having it at the back creates more spin. And the idea is the more spin the club has, the more forgiveness it has. So, and it also helps with launch. Now, if you move it to the draw setting, which is on the heel and also at the back, still forgiving, but also really does help with that closing the club face when you swing it. And also, so stops the slice. Well, it's supposed to help with the slice. I think if you've got a really bad slice, it doesn't matter. I tried with my PXG when I was slicing it really bad. I could put the weight in the heel, and believe me, I'd still slice it really bad. So it's not a miracle worker, but it does help. And then if you put the 12 gram right at the front there, that's for your quicker swingers out there who can create a lot of ball spin with a faster club head. So that's to help lower the spin and therefore increase the distance. Now, looks wise, as I mentioned before, it's really nice. So the next thing to do was to take it to the driving range, which we did. Now, before I show you the footage of that, me down at Silvermere, I will say, with all these Cobras, as you can see here, there is a sleeve where you can adjust it. This particular one, you can adjust between 9 and 12 degrees. A lot of Cobras, you do find that nowadays as well, that they have that adjustability already in there. So, that's a great thing. So let's go to Silvermere and let's see how it's performed. So no trace today, as I accidentally started my filming and then turned the camera around so it was upside down, and therefore all the tracers upside down, and it's all a bit weird. So none of that today, but obviously still got the figures, so let's just run through them. Now, what I found on average, I was about 202 total yards, 202 carry, 239 yards total distance, my longest being 210 carry, and 248 total distance. Now, for me, I'd normally be on average between the 240 250, and my longest would be over 250 with my PXG, so a little bit drop off with distance. Obviously, as a high handicapper, you don't tend to see that much normally with clubs, so that was a little bit disappointing. Miles per hour as well, it was 143 miles per hour, while my PXG is normally about that 150 mark, so again a little bit down. I will say though, it was a regular shaft, so I didn't really massively go for it, but I just generally, I think even if I did and maybe I put a stiff shaft in, I think there still would be a little bit down on the distance wise. However, launch wise, I was really happy with 13 degrees. One thing I struggle with is to get the ball in the air. I normally hit down very much on the ball, so I don't really get it up in the air like that. So that was perfect. I thought that was really good. I'm really happy with the club. Sound, enjoyed the sound. As you can hear through this, nice little sort of pop off the face. Feel was generally quite nice as well. One thing I will say is the dispersion of the balls was fantastic. I think it was 59%, all in the same area. So for accuracy, now that is fantastic. So things to pick up for it. Distance, not great, not bad, but could be better, but perfectly straight. So there we are, a Silvermere. Now, one thing I will say is I've already mentioned before. Now, with the weight of the back there, it really did help to get that ball up in the air. I was really impressed by the flight of it. Now, it is a regular shaft, which for me is it's a bit too flimsy. I'm more of a stiff man myself. So I will say that does help pick up the ball as well, which is necessarily a good thing because high spin doesn't go as far. Forgiveness wise, very forgiving off the face. We all know some of my bad shots really come out here at the toe. So forgiveness, perfect. And consistency as well. I think my consistency was on the driving range for the day was 53% on the top man tracer. So for a driver, I'd be happy with that any day of the week, 53%. So, forgiving, consistent is the two main things I would say about this F7. Now, distance-wise, I wouldn't say it's that long. Now, obviously, it's not the shortest thing out there, but compared to a more modern PXG or even other things at the time, I mean, your TaylorMades around the same time and your Callaways, I think 2017 is where the Big Bertha Epic and the Great Big Bertha Epic came out, which was an absolute monster. So it really did not compare with those guys for distance-wise, and it's not really targeting those. I mean, the full price of this when it first came out was £300, so $360 if you're over in the US. Now, that's cheap. I mean, a lot of these drivers were still over 450, near that 500 mark. So the idea is more someone who didn't want to break the bank, but wanted that forgiveness and wanted that consistency, and it's not too worried about hitting it down the fairway 280, 290, 300 yards. All they care about is getting that maybe 220 off the tee box, and it's in the fairway and you can play it. So that's really what it's aimed at. So conclusion wise, I would say, another thing just to add, sorry, quickly, the feel of it did feel nice off the face. It didn't feel like hitting a brick or anything like that. It still felt, relatively like a premium driver. So that's good. But overall, I think this is really targeted at someone who, like I mentioned, wants a forgiveness, wants a consistency, and isn't too worried about the distance. They just want to be on that fairway every time, which in hindsight is probably sometimes what we all need, to be fair, especially as high handicappers, because you play it off the fairway, you're far more likely to score low. If if it's digging out of the bush, even though it's gone 330 yards or whatever, 300 yards, and you slice it into a tree, you're still going to lose a shot getting it back out if you're lucky to find it. So So that's who it's aimed at. Do I think you should be looking for it nowadays if we're talking buying it second hand? I think if it comes in the right price and that's what you want, the forgiveness and the consistency, because it is a nice club. I think it's a good looking club, and obviously Cobra, they are good. It is a very good brand, but I will say it has to be under, personally for me, I think has to be under that £100 mark and a bit, maybe about 70, 80 max. I feel if you get to that £100 mark and then you start to look up maybe 150, I think there's a lot of better options out there, which not only offer you for the forgiveness and the consistency, but also a little bit more distance. First things that ping into my mind, the TaylorMade M2 from 2016. Yes, it's a year older than this, but if you can pick up a good one for about £100, £120, that thing's forgiving and also flies. I think it was like one of the best drivers out there. A lot of people, if you speak to them about TaylorMade, will say since the M2, there hasn't been that much of a jump. So there, and then obviously you've got the Callaway, like I said, the great big Bertha Epic. Now I wouldn't necessarily go for the Sub-Zero model, but you can pick up the normal model for about 120, maybe even that £100 mark, which is forgiving. Obviously it's a Callaway and a lot longer. So I think there's a lot better options. If you're going to the £150 mark, which I've seen these on there for 150 when they're in really good condition, go for a Mizuno. You can literally get a 2021 Mizuno or the 2020 Mizuno ST200 or the STZ for £150, and that thing's it's forgiving, it's consistent, and it will go longer than this. So overall, right price, yes. So between that £50 and up to that £70, anything above that, I think there's better options out there, to be honest, to look at. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do give it a like. Comment if you do play with a Cobra driver and what it is down below, and also do subscribe to the channel. Let's try and get up to that, well, world's an oyster. Let's just try and increase that subscription rate. So yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye.